In this video, I would like to share with you how you can easily and effortlessly overcome the fear of public speaking, even if this is something that has been plaguing you your entire life, even if you think that you're shy or an introvert, or that this is just how your personality is and there's nothing you can do, and even if you have already tried everything and you're still stuck with this problem, this is for you. Because as a hypnotherapist, an executive coach, this is probably the number one problem I help people solve. So many professionals are stuck with fear of public speaking. And the truth is, it doesn't even necessarily have to be so public. It can even be fear of speaking in the boardroom, fear of asking for the raise, fear of speaking to the boss, fear of marketing, fear of going on camera, fear of being seen, fear of being rejected, fear of cold calling, fear of reaching out to certain important people, fear of getting into a confrontation or a negotiation. And very often this fear trickles in even when we're in an intimate setting. Could be like a one-on-one, right? Or even in a small group. How many professionals have I worked with that they've worked so hard to get to where they are, and they've jumped through all kinds of hoops to finally land that leadership position, right? That they so desperately wanted and worked so hard to get, and finally landed, only to find out that now they're worried. They now get imposter syndrome. They now, well, what if my team doesn't respect me? What if they don't take me seriously? What if I can't be the leader that I thought I was? What if I don't have the information? What if I say the wrong thing at the wrong time? And of course, this fear, even though it's such a small word, but the thought of it and the emotions and the impact of it, needless to say, can cause a catastrophe in somebody's life. And it hits somebody without any warning. You know, how many times might you have said to yourself, I really want to show up as my best self. I really want to do well. I really want to, right, get the recognition and the respect I deserve. And I want to make a big impact, only to find out that your body betrayed you, only to find out that you couldn't get a word out and the nerves took over. Well, remember, so first of all, please know this is not your fault. And this has nothing to do, believe it or not, with self-confidence. Nope, this is not a confidence issue. This has nothing to do with willpower or having to work harder or self-discipline or thinking that you need to practice more. And I'm all for practicing. Practice is important because your subconscious mind learns through practice and repetition. That's a given, right? But what if you have this fear and you don't even get to practice? What do we do then? And by the way, practicing in the bedroom in front of the mirror is a whole different ball game than getting in front of the board or standing in the courtroom or the classroom when everybody looks at you, or you stand on stage. And this is stage fright pure, right? There's a completely different vibe. I don't have to spell it out. And so that's why just practicing alone somewhere in your comfort zone, this is why people often feel so defeated and depleted by this problem, because they know, I have the information, I am an expert in my field, I'm educated, I have the right credentials, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I have the right information. Why is my body failing me? Well, and this is where I explain to you, as a hypnotherapist, of course, it's my job, my mission, and my passion to help you break free of this fear as fast as humanly possible, very often within 1 or 2 sessions. Yep. So therefore, I explain to my clients, you're not really paying for the session. You're not paying for hypnotherapy. You're paying for the transformation. You're paying to get back decades of your time. What would that be worth to you if you could turn on the camera and speak effortlessly and be comfortable in your skin and just like show up as the rock star? Or you walk into that boardroom like you own the building. What would that be like? Imagine. And so here's the trick. If you can imagine it, then you can be it. Whether you have seen this from somebody else, it could have been an actor, could have been a real person. You're like, oh my God, I wish I could be like them. I wish I could have that kind of charisma. I wish I could have that kind of confidence. If you can imagine it and if you can see yourself, then you can become it. The only thing that is not on board yet, and the only thing that literally is putting the kibosh on all of this is your subconscious. And that's who I happen to work with. Because until and unless you make the change in your subconscious, there's no amount of thinking and understanding and willpower and decision making that can override the subconscious. So if you're into numbers, you wanna get some science here, right? Keep in mind, your conscious mind is 5% of your mind power. Your subconscious is 95% of your mind power, where the conscious mind is responsible and in control of thinking, analytical thinking, decision making, willpower. Your subconscious is responsible for your beliefs, your emotions, your feelings, your habits, your behaviors, how you think, right? And your triggers. So I know you know people who, for example, they are stuck in traffic and all of a sudden they get so angry or somebody cuts them off and they just go from 0 to 100. Well, guess what? That's because our subconscious, even though they're like, I shouldn't react this way. I'm being overreactive. Why am I right? And logically, you're like, I don't want to be like this. But the subconscious is always 10 steps ahead. And that's why when we get triggered, our body responds. And that's why it feels like your body is failing you. That's why it feels like the nerves are failing you. But what I want to share with you about this, that's not true. Because your subconscious is doing what it was programmed to do. And unfortunately, when it comes to this case of fear of speaking, okay, it basically means that your subconscious is still bought into an old story, an old memory, an old belief that has you stuck in believing that public speaking equals danger. Or speaking up means I'm going to get rejected. Or speaking means I'm going to fail. Or speaking means I'm going to sound weird, right? And so, but the tricky part is that we often don't notice because it's in our subconscious. And the only thing we do experience is this real life, all of a sudden not being able to do what with the best intentions. So this is also has nothing to do with motivation, lack of motivation, or I should be stronger and I should muscle through that. I mean, eventually you might, and here's the thing, how many professionals have told me that the only way they're able to do a certain speech or show up in a boardroom is when they take antidepressants or supplements or do some kind of convoluted breathing techniques or visualizations. And look, some of these things can be useful. But the truth is, it not only costs you a lot of time, it's quite inconvenient, it takes a lot of work, and typically it doesn't really work the way you want. Where hypnotherapy, again, works directly with your subconscious, that's where the change can happen. And then you go out there into the real world. As I always tell my clients, go out and play now and let's see what happens, even after just one session, right? And then all of a sudden, they're like, Susan, you won't believe what happened. I felt so natural. I felt so much more comfortable. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I told you. Because we have finally gotten your subconscious on board. And now your conscious and subconscious are working in alignment with each other because they both have the same belief systems. They both are finally agreeing with each other. And this is how we can literally override years and years of baggage and trauma and these convoluted negative beliefs or emotions that we have been holding on. This is where hypnotherapy is really powerful. So I wanted to share with you that I'm talking about anybody who wants to be more confident with speaking, anybody who wants to be able to feel more grounded, centered, calm, resilient, strong. If you want to make an impact, you want to sound amazing rather than nervous or self-conscious, because of course our voice picks up on that, and then our voice begins to be shaky, and that doesn't sound very convincing, right? So if you want to show up with more clarity, with more certainty, feeling grounded, feeling calm, feeling centered, feeling like you are the boss, even if you're not, right? But it's about What are you feeling? You can make that happen in a very short time. This is why I get paid a lot of money to help people go from feeling stuck to unstoppable in as fast as humanly possible, even after they have already tried so many things. And this is not to brag, but this is literally to brag about you, to help you see how quickly, with the right approach, how quickly you can change. Any human being has the ability. And it's so funny because when people first meet me, they will often say something like, Susan, you're my last resort. You're my last hope. Okay, great. No pressure here. And then on the flip side, they'll say, I should have done this so much sooner. I don't understand why I waited. Well, chances are because nobody explained to you what's possible with hypnotherapy and what it really is, because it still has such a confusing stigma message. You know, a lot of people, unfortunately, when they hear the word hypnotherapy, what comes to mind is the swinging pendulum or clucking like a duck or some sort of stage hypnosis. And of course, that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is human transformation as fast as humanly possible. Change work, right? Helping you break out of behaviors, patterns, habits, neuroses, anxieties that have not served you, that literally keep you stuck in a loop, right? And then in a short while, you can change that, you can transition that, you can alchemize that and become the best version of you. You know, I know often my clients will say, I just want to be the best version of me. I get it. Well, in your imagination, you already are the best version. And by the way, guess what? Your subconscious is your imagination as well. So if you can imagine it, that means the information is already there, the tools are already there, the resources are already there. Nobody has shown you yet how to bring them out to full expression so that you can dominate, be powerful, whatever it is that you like, be as charismatic as Cary Grant. I don't know, right? Whatever is on your wish list. And my, you know, I always ask, so what is on your wish list? What is not working now? How would you like to be instead, right? What's the problem and what's the solution? And especially if this comes to a habit or a behavior or some sort of an emotion, right? If you want to be done with fear and self-doubt and insecurity and you want to finally, or listen, a lot of people, and they are often aware, they're holding on to a lot of baggage from the past, ruminating, resentment, anger, guilt, shame, right? And those are the things that sometimes stay stuck in our system, and they're often polluting the present moment, right? Of course, this is because of early experiences, most likely, and you know that shaped our personality. But that doesn't have to be an excuse for not being able to change. Yes, maybe up until now this is how you were, and maybe up until now you thought, oh, it's because I'm shy, or it's my personality, I'm an introvert. No problem, you get to be shy when you want, but when it comes time to shine, you also get to do that on command, on demand, when you need it, when you want it, right? And this is something you can install. It's no different than your computer. I'm looking this way, my computer. Your computer has certain programs installed, and that's why it works so efficiently, and that's why it's so dependable. Well, we can do the same thing with you, except some people don't know that there might be a mental mind code, a virus, so to speak, that might be stuck in their subconscious. But if you don't know how to fix it, how could you fix it? How could you remove it? Right? Just like when our computer slows down, what do? We bring it to the store. They tell us there's nothing wrong with the product. Everything is great. You know, you have a wonderful, phenomenal machine here. The only thing is there's a program, right, that needs to, that has a glitch or that has a virus or whatever the technical term is. And then they repair it, and in a couple of days, the computer runs as good as new. Well, we kind of are designed the same way. And what nobody has explained to us is that a lot of these viruses or mental blocks often are, you know, kicked in at an early age. And then, of course, only when we become an adult, we realize the consequences that causes. And this is where the investigation and the tools of hypnotherapy can be really powerful to help you change and transform and finally experience you as your best self. So if you want to connect with me, if you want to continue this conversation, if you're curious about this process, obviously I have tons of YouTube videos here that explain more, but you can even like message me down here below, or on in my bio you're going to find a link where you can connect with me with a call, and we can continue the conversation, and you can give me a wish list and we can start at something so that you can begin to experience some incredible results in your life. And that will give you enough proof in the pudding. And because I always explain to them, I said, look, how could you have an opinion about hypnotherapy if you've never experienced it? You know, sure, there's a lot of these interesting things said, spoken about, written about, but that still doesn't mean you have experienced it, right? And the only way you could make a strong opinion is give yourself the opportunity, right? So I want to make sure if I missed any comments here. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. And I'm just going to wait another moment. If there are any comments or questions, I am happy to answer them. So again, I appreciate you being part of my network, my community. I also go on Facebook Live every day. I have a channel on TikTok, so you can connect with me through several different social media platforms, and I will see you later. Of course, if you have a comment or a question, you can always post it below. Until next time.